in the feeler out.
Welcome everybody.
Let a few people figure out that we're live, and then we go live.
Yeah. I got to do a little housework here, Sherwin. So continue.
Yeah. So like I don't know if you do the YouTube channel thing, Jordan, but
no, I have not really. I watch YouTube videos, but
yeah,
I don't subscribe to anything.
Yeah. So it lets you do some really cool things, and one of them is you can turn on notifications, so your phone will light up and say, "Hey, PTM is live now with Jordan Taylor." And people,
are we live?
Yeah,
we are live on YouTube.
Currently live on YouTube, but we're not. This won't end up in the iTunes /Podbean /Google Play or whatever.
Yeah,
but it'll be on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we kind of do the pre-show for the folks who want to listen in live and make it kind of appointment watching, and then after that, there
are some. Yeah, we usually have about 10 to 20 people that like to watch this as if it's a TV show on 9 p.m. at Thursday nights.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they want to look at my ugly ass, but
where are you located at, Jordan?
I'm just outside of Orlando, Florida.
Okay, cool.
It's called Apopka, so not many. It's not known as like the nicest area, but I live on a lake here, so it's probably like 20 minutes from downtown, so it's not too far.
Gotcha.
Cool. The racetrack in your background, where is that? Is that Daytona? That is Daytona, isn't it? That's the road course.
That one's Daytona, then there's Sebring, and then Long Beach.
Oh, that's super cool.
Cool.
That's one of those it's sophisticated yet cool. I don't know. I like a lot about that. That's neato. And it takes a racer, Sherwin, to know what that is, or race
one
fan.
One of them's easier to figure out than the other.
Yeah.
Daytona's definitely the most simple one.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, I brought up Apopka, Florida there. I must have been through there a million times. We had family in Lakeland when I was growing up, and went through there once. Every year, and Zephyr Hills and all that. So blah blah blah. Zephyr Hills.
That's where all the
it's the water.
Yeah, the water that gets pumped out of a tap.
Yeah,
and put in a
put in a bottle. Yeah. No, it's funny. If you talk about Lakeland and Zephyr Hills, I mean, Jordan's probably thinking it. He's like, yeah, that's where all the old people live, and that's where my family was, and they were old.
Well, because Florida too.
Yeah, Florida will do that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's definitely not a lot of young people around here.
Florida's batting about 800 on the Marty and McGee whacked out headlines segment.
It's funny. Let's see. So I don't want to keep him waiting too much longer. I think we went over the show notes. We went over everything going on. I'm about ready to get this thing started. Sherwin, how about you? You know what? Before we do that, I need to make sure I have our sound.
The sound?
Yeah. Or no, I mean, I need to make sure we have our theme song ready to roll. We do all of our editing on the fly, if you will. So there's no. Okay. I don't do anything special after that. It's make it happen while
Whatever
it's doing.
Whatever happens is basically what it amounts to.
Call ourselves out if we mess something up, and that's it. So, Sherwin, you ready?
Yes.
All right, Jordan, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, like I said, there'll be about a 20-second pause here while the music's going on, and then you'll hear us hooting and hollering. We sound a lot more charismatic, I guess, once we start doing the podcast. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. With that, we are recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 152. Today's Thursday, June 21st, 2018. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace. I'm in the PTM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man. We had a pretty cool set of guests this week. I think people are going to be excited to hear this one.
I'm super excited. We pre-recorded one, and it was so much fun. We've got another fella on the line. Y'all can see him if you're on the YouTube. But if you can't, you're just going to have to wait a second.
Oh, yeah,
'cause-
fourth wall.
yeah, because we got to do our little intro first. Y'all know how it is. The PTM podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month and get that free koozie. Best part is, every cent in 2018, we're just donating it to sponsoring drivers. So join the PTM posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. Sure, and Jensen Jorgensen, our sponsored driver this week, he is starting tonight. What'd you say? Outside pole? Outside pole. Y'all know what that means. It's going to be good. Here goes nothing. This week's show is brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That is David Patterson, Lord Henshaw, Mick Rose, Aaron Bearden, Robert Kepler, Tony Saul, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marilyn Best, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crowley, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brandon Carl, Billy Workman, Rika Porter, Jumpy Bob, Les Miller, Jason Rudd, Tommy Witt, Mark Wiley, and Julie Bosley. Oh, how much fun is that?
You have to give me that list because I think there's some people that haven't gotten their stuff yet.
Ooh, we're gonna have to get koozies out, y'all.
Yep.
If you're listening, you ain't got your koozie yet. Give us a holler. We'll make sure that happens because we've been sending out stuff lately.
Jump in them DMs.
Yeah, just slide on into that DM a little bit, y'all. We have two guests tonight. Count them two. You'll hear from our second guest a bit later, but first. I got to take a breath for this one, too, Sherwin. Like, I've got a long read here. This is crazy. A driver in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship Series, winner of the 2017 24 Hours at Daytona. And you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, wait, I know somebody who won at Daytona. It was with his brother Ricky, Max Angelelli, and Jeff Gordon himself. He's a 2017 champion of the prototype class, and you may know him by his alter ego, old Rodney Sandstorm, the cutoff jeans, or cutoff jorts, rainbow jacket, toe-tapping fan who rocked Talladega. We want to welcome to the show Mr. Jordan Taylor. Jordan, what's happening?
Yeah, not too much. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing great. We're sauced up, ready to go, right, Sherwin?
Yeah, we're doing our normal. This is our normal Thursday thing. We make a bunch of drinks. We find some really fun people to talk to that have some involvement in racing. Some are more intriguing than others. You would fall into that category for sure.
That's good.
No doubt. No doubt. Before we get into anything, we always start the show off the same way. Jordan, what you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking water and apple juice.
Water and
juice
apple
box.
The juice box. Look at that.
Awesome.
And wait,
Yeah.
what is what's
Is it
the
Mott's?
Wait,
It's,
what?
no, it's Juicy Juice.
Juicy
but
Juice.
Juicy Juice, they change their box every now and then. It's like Incredibles 2.
Oh, there it
themes.
is. The Incredibles 2. Yep, right on.
So, yeah, they change the theme every now and then. So I haven't been collecting them, but you know, this week I've got Incredible 2. I think a couple weeks ago it was a different movie, but I enjoy my juice boxes.
I dig it, man. Every once in a while, I like to take a Capri Sun, and if you roll up with a Capri Sun, people are like, Capri Sun, yeah, or a juice box for that matter, something. And you have to stab the bottom end of it.
I was going to say, did you ever stab the bottom?
Oh yeah, you got to. If you're rolling up with it,
I think some people do it in the middle too, don't they? Right in the middle of it.
Oh, I don't
sure
know.
they
That's
Definitely seen that.
yeah, that's Neanderthals.
I don't know. Or what is that?
Yeah, can't do that. We're civilized people here. We stab our Capri Sun in the bottom.
Right. Hind end.
Right. Sherwin, what are we drinking on tonight? Good grief.
Well, we got Jim Beam Black Label.
Nice
my
work
dad's
bringing
favorite ginger ale, Red Rock. It's delicious, y'all.
Yep.
It's just a little bit spicier than your normal ginger ale. Like it's got pepper in it.
Ginger
or something.
beer or something, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. And then to celebrate the fact that we are headed to California to race some NASCAR this week, I got the Golden Road Ride On IPA.
Very nice.
I thought about getting like just a 6-pack of Budweiser because the trucks are at Gateway.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what's weird about Gateway is it's celebrated as being St. Louis area. But the racetrack is actually in Illinois.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
You blew my mind a little bit. That's funny. With that, Jordan, that was probably the longest intro that I've given to a guest yet. And I haven't even hit half the accolades with all the wins, championships, and everything else. Yet our fans probably know you by your alter ego first. But let's start talking. Let's talk about the racing part to start with. I think maybe the best part is let's start with how you started and how you got started into racing and what got you where you're at today.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a racing family. My dad, his name is Wayne. He grew up racing in South Africa. My parents are both South African, and he raced in the World Sports Car Championship in the 80s, and then in the early 90s, he got offered to race here in America. So that brought our family to America. I was born right when they landed here, basically, and I grew up going to the racetrack with my dad all those years, going to sports car races. So, my brother and I always aspired to race sports cars, and Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans, all those races were the ones that we always watched on TV. So, once we were kind of old enough, we started go-karting pretty unsuccessfully. We didn't win. I don't think we won anything in go-karts. But then we moved to the Skip Barber Racing School, which was our first step in cars, where we learned how to drive race cars. And that's when things started to click for us. And I won the Eastern Championship. I think my brother was second in the National Championship. And then basically straight from Skip Barber, we went to sports car racing and skipped most of the ladder system and went pretty much straight into the deep end, I'd say. And it was a quick learning curve. I think going from such a small car to a big sports car was tough, but I think it accelerated our learning curve that much faster. And instead of learning at the same pace up the ladder as learning at the same pace as another young driver, we're thrown in with pro drivers who've been doing it their whole lives very well. So you're racing around them and you're learning their habits and what they do and what works. So you're not learning at the same rate as another guy. And I think that kind of helped our careers accelerate that much quicker. And obviously growing up with my dad, he was able to open a lot of doors that wouldn't have been open if he wasn't our dad. So a lot of it was down to that. But I think since we've sort of made our names in sports car racing, things have been going pretty well the last few years.
Those sports cars, Sherwin, I'm going to say are the sexiest looking cars in all of racing, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, because they look like something you could actually go buy that just has a few body adjustments to it.
Yeah. Do you get that a lot, Jordan?
Yeah, I think, in the past I drove GT cars, so Corvette, Cadillac, I raced a Porsche, Mazda RX-8, so those cars were all very much production-based, and they look very similar to a street car, just like you said, with some different flares on it, different flicks, slick tires. But the Cadillac prototype that I drive now is, a lot different. It looks a lot more futuristic. It's basically an open-wheel car with bodywork on top of it, and it was designed and built by an Italian company called Dallara, and then Cadillac came in and basically did all the styling of the bodywork to make it look as close to a Cadillac as possible. And it has a Cadillac V8 in it, so it sounds really good. It's got a great sound, lots of torque, lots of power. So we race against mostly V6 twin turbos, so most people know when either a Corvette GT car comes by or our Cadillac.
That's pretty cool. What's the displacement on the motor that's in your car?
It's 5.5 liter.
Oh, cool. Wow. So that's really close to what we're racing on the stock car side.
Sure.
Yeah. Last year we had a 6.2 liter, and
good Lord.
Basically with the way sports car racing works, which is not like NASCAR, is we have our manufacturers and we have our set of rules, and each manufacturer will build a car to that rule book, and then we'll come out and race. And if, say, last year, as an example, we came out with our Cadillac and we won the first 5 races of the year, and we have what's called balance of performance. So the series will come in and basically try, handicap our car to make it more raceable against, say, a Mazda or an Acura. So they'll take horsepower away, they'll take downforce away, they'll add weight, they'll take fuel capacity away. So they try to even it out. So the 6.2 liter didn't really line up very well against twin turbo cars, just the way the engine worked. So they were actually giving us mandatory gears to run to take torque away. So this year we came out with a different Cadillac V8 that kind of lines up a little bit better with the power curves and the torque curves that can kind of be easier for the series to manage.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so have you driven some of those twin turbo V6s, and what from your seat with your foot on the gas or off the gas or on the brake, what is the difference that you feel versus the Cadillac motors?
And so before you answer, what's funny, the question I was going to ask, me and Sherwin almost stepped on each other, is the driving characteristics of these cars in comparison to open wheel and other things, NASCAR and other things that are racing on asphalt.
Yeah, I mean, I've driven, V8s and naturally aspirated cars most of my career. I've only driven one twin turbo car, and that was actually a Cadillac ATS VR last year in the World Challenge. And the biggest difference is just the turbo lag and you having to predict when the power is going to come in. And with the V8, you kind of always know when you put your foot on the throttle what you're going to get. So depending on where you are in the rev range. So for me, I've always enjoyed the V8. I haven't driven a prototype with a twin turbo engine, but my brother now drives for Team Penske, which runs a turbo engine, and I think they've got it pretty well sorted. It doesn't have much turbo lag, so I think if the team and everything and the engine builders can properly build it, there's no real disadvantage to it. There's a lot of fueling differences, obviously, and fuel economy and how you can save fuel, and which is big in our series. But as far as driving standards, it's not a whole lot different.
That makes a lot of sense. So for our listeners out there that aren't understanding any of this, because maybe they're just stock car people that have never dealt with a blown motor like a turbocharger, they're in a street car. If you put a turbocharger on it, there's an RPM range that turbocharger wants to operate in, or the supercharger wants to operate in, whether you're recouping heat from the exhaust or you're just forcing more air into the motor than it really wants to accept. There is a point where you hit the gas and it doesn't go. Like you have to spool up RPM because they're driven by belts. Mm-hmm. And it has to spool up. So what Jordan's talking about is, with the lag, is that you can stomp the gas and it'll go. It's a race car. It's going to go. Yeah. But the power band, like we used to talk about with dirt bikes, it has to hit a certain RPM where it's like, oh, now we're in super go mode.
Yeah, now we're going. One of the things I would love to hear, because you do so much endurance racing, 24-hour Le Mans or 24-hour Daytona, 12-hour Le Mans stuff. Walk us through a day of endurance racing and what that's like, and what that does to you and to the body and to the mind and all that stuff.
Like a day at the racetrack?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like Daytona, I've done Daytona probably 10 times. I did Le Mans 6 times. So the first couple times you do a 24-hour, it's obviously exciting and you're amped up and you're kind of worried about being tired at the end. So you're trying to manage yourself, but you get so stressed and the anxiety is going so much you can't sleep through the race. So you kind of drive at sunset, say, and then you go eat something, and then you get back, try rest. You're not going to sleep, so your next stint's around midnight till 2 a.m. And then you get out, and your adrenaline's going so much, so by the time you get back, you're not going to fall asleep. And over the years of experience, you just teach yourself that you have to shut your body off, or else you're going to be dead at the end of the race. So I just have a routine now where I eat the same meal, every meal of the day, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner during the race, which is just pasta, chicken, and salad, which is very basic. But then in the night, where your stomach is kind of unsettled, you eat toasted sandwiches because it's easier to digest. But we've actually been doing studies with some scientists and doctors and a company called Coresight, who's working with Gatorade and Under Armour, and we actually wear a patch on our arm, and it's a sweat patch that they developed with the Air Force. So we wear this patch, and it's measuring how much you're sweating and what you're sweating, so potassium and sodium and what kind of ratio. And that data is going to Gatorade, and here, I'll show you. Hold
on. Quick pause. Might have
Gatorade's developing these pods.
Oh, yeah.
So each one, like this is a 2H, so there's, I think, like 11 or 12 different sweat profiles that a person can have. So whatever I sweat, you tell Gatorade and they'll send you your profile, and basically you put this in your bottle and you drink it, and it replenishes exactly what you were sweating out. And eventually that'll be tied into our live, because we have live telemetry data through the car, and that'll be tied into the data. So as we're sweating in the race, our engineers can say, all right, you've sweat out half a pound, take 2 sips of Gatorade out of the drink bottle in the car, and you'll maintain your level. So
holy cow. Do they make do they make an alcoholic version? Because I think that's what I sweat out when I'm at the race. And
we can find out. We're just like a little Jack Daniels pod.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're in jest here, but that is the science, the biology behind that is amazing.
That's outrageous. Take 2 swigs of this, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine being tweaking that level of performance is. I mean, and that's what you got to do because that's what the other guy's going to do. If you don't, that's
man. All I can think after hearing you say that, Jordan, is like I want to hear you on Joe Rogan's podcast with one of those super PhD like nutrition people talking about replenishment science and body health and explaining what you just said and how racers have to deal with that.
Yeah. And one of the crazy parts was that we, I think 2 years ago in Atlanta at our last race, we had a doctor come and we took a pill, and it was a body temperature pill. So it was it would go in your stomach and it would measure internal body temp and heart rate and breath rate and everything. So just extra data. And I drove for maybe an hour and a half, and it was a cool day. It wasn't even hot, and my temperature was over 100 degrees. I think it was 101.9. And he said, and I felt like right now I felt completely normal, completely perfect. Mm-hmm. And I got out, and he was concerned. He's like, if you went to the hospital like this, you'd be taken straight back to the ICU with a severe fever. Wow. And it was kind of eye-opening that, as a driver, you probably don't realize what your body's going through. I definitely didn't. And after getting some of the data back from them, it's pretty shocking, even on a cool day of what the body goes through, and the adrenaline hides, most of that until you're kind of past your level or past your peak.
That's crazy. And
makes sense.
We're seeing that in all kinds of sports, sure, now with the more data that they can collect. And, I mean, obviously football is the one that comes to mind to me on, oh, my gosh, now that we've collected data, this is horrible for you. And,
and it's not just – so in football, it's like you wear your heart monitor.
Mm-hmm.
But every set of chest pads now for like a top-tier team has a black box in it, so they know how hard you've been hit.
G-forces and all that stuff, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts. Jordan, tell us about 2018. Goals, plans, what's going on this year for you?
I mean, as far as racing is concerned, it hasn't been obviously as good as 2017. Last year at this point, we had won every race, all 5. This year, we've had a couple podiums. We're tied for third in the points. Daytona was a disaster for us. We had to withdraw from the race with tire problems. But, since then we've had a second at the 12-hour Sebring. We had third at Long Beach, and I think 2 fifth-place finishes. So for us this year, the way the racing is a bit different than the years past. We've only had maybe 10 to 12 prototypes in the class, and now we have 15. So, in the past it was hard to gain or lose a lot of points, but this year it's easy to lose a lot or gain a lot if someone has a problem. So we're still only 14 points back. We still have half the year to go, so there's a lot of racing to go. So we're definitely not out of it, but we definitely want to start getting some wins on the board.
You got to love Sherwin when it's like early summer, and at this point last year we won all the races. It's so impressive. That's amazing. So let's take it to the ditch a little bit. No, you mentioned that your family's from South Africa. Do you speak any Afrikaans?
I speak only a couple words.
Only a couple words. What are the words? What are your favorites?
What's that?
Uh-oh. What, did you tell me to go jump in the lake?
It does kind of mean that.
Oh, no kidding. So what's that?
Get out of here.
Oh, get out.
Typically, it's the cuss words that
that's the ones that Dad screams at the top of his lungs. And you don't have to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not a good word.
Excellent. Oh, man. So is that something growing up? Like, is that what your parents speak as well, or are they mostly English? I'm just curious.
They only speak it when they don't want us to understand what they're saying.
That's funny. I love it.
No, we still have a lot of family over there. My cousin still lives there. My aunt, my grandmother. We went over there last year for my cousin's wedding. So we make it back, every probably 2 years. But it's definitely, much different culture when you go there. It's much different lifestyle, especially where my grandparents live and where my dad grew up. Going back now, it feels like you're walking straight into like the 1980s. With how everything works there. So, it's a good experience every time I go back. I love going back, but definitely certain areas are quite dangerous. But it's good to see family.
Speaking of dangerous, have you? Because I mean, we're coming up on Shark Week. Have you been out to Seal Island to watch the great whites breach?
No, I haven't. But I live in Florida, so I actually I surf, or I don't surf well. I try surf at New Smyrna Beach, which is the shark bite capital of the world.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's tigers mostly, right? Tigers and bulls.
I don't want to know what they are, but there's something.
It's fish with teeth, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like a lifelong goal of mine at some point, way, way down the bucket list, but on the bucket list is to go on one of those cruises around Seal Island and see the great whites just breach. Because, like, that's amazing.
Are you going to get into a cage with them?
I would get in the cage.
I would absolutely. Yeah. It's a cage.
Yeah, I'd get in the cage. I'm like, I always enjoyed the ropes courses where you were like in a harness.
Yeah,
and you were attached to something. Like, I'm good with that.
Oh, and the best part is you're in the water. If you pee yourself, then who cares?
Yeah, or
maybe
the other
they're attracted to pee though.
It's manageable.
yeah, everything's fine, no problems. Jordan, we have to talk a little bit about the alter ego. Rodney Sandstorm and coming into Talladega and pretty much being the iconic fan there. What was the let's start with like the inspiration. What got you started doing that?
I mean the name Rod.
And before we go any further,
obviously loves Rodney.
And before we go any further, because we had the interruption there, tell us the dog's name again.
That's Fonzie.
Fonzie just giving his best aid to everybody.
Henry Winkler has a alter ego
the
as a
scary
dog.
part is I don't have any lights in my backyard, so there could definitely be someone like standing right there that he's barking at.
You're like, I'll be quiet.
Hopefully this isn't like one of those Scream movies.
It could be. Right? All the lights are about to shut off.
There I was, PTM podcast, and suddenly.
At least it'll be live.
Oh, yeah. So we talked inspiration on Rodney Sandstorm. How did that thing get started?
I think, I live alone here with my dog, and I think the character actually, I created the character one day because my neighbors were moving out, and there were always these new families coming in that I was having to, like, say hello to. And I made a joke on the internet, and I dressed up as a character, and I named him Rodney Sandstorm, and I said I was going to greet my neighbors as this guy named Rodney. And the story that I had come up with for him was that he was a professional palm tree climber, and I have 2 palm trees in my backyard. And he slipped one day and he fell and he slid down the palm tree and it ripped off all the skin on the inside of his legs, on his thighs. And then he had plastic surgery done and he had great legs. And he became an underwear model for some underwear company. And that was his story. And then obviously Jeff Gordon was my teammate last year, and I figured it'd be great the character that I had dressed up as for that had like a mullet and glasses and jorts, and I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to buy a Jeff Gordon jacket and try sneak up to him as a super fan. And I found one on eBay. It still smells like a pack of cigarettes. It was definitely heavily used.
So it was well used. It was used like a Jeff Gordon, like rainbow jacket ought to be used.
Middle '90s NASCAR fan.
Yeah, for sure. And went to Walmart, bought some like $6 jeans, cut up some jorts. Then tried to get him at Daytona during the 24-hour weekend, and I failed. He caught me. But then, people loved it, so I figured I'd keep it around. And Talladega actually reached out to me to see or not me. They just wanted Rodney to come to the race. So that was a fun weekend.
What was Jeff's initial reaction? Was there like oh hey Jordan, or was it oh my god, or was it who is this idiot? And then he realized.
Yeah. I think it was a who's this idiot, because I made the mistake of doing it on load-in day for the 24 hours, so there's no fans walking around the paddock. So it's just basically team members, and I saw him and his guy John Edwards with him, and I signaled John Edwards not to look at me, And so I sneak up to Jeff behind him in my outfit, and I was holding my phone up to like take a selfie with him, so I wasn't looking at him directly. And I had trimmed off. I had grown up a bunch of facial hair the previous time that I'd seen him, and then I just cut it all off to have a mustache. And I went up to him like backwards, like with the selfie mode. And as soon as he like turned around, he like looked at it and he was like, "Hold on, wait a second." I don't think I even got a selfie with him until he noticed. And but we videoed the whole thing, got the whole reaction, and it was a good laugh.
That's fantastic.
Excellent.
And if y'all hadn't seen it, y'all just Google Rodney Sandstorm, and I don't know how to better describe. The only thing you were missing was like a cell phone holster, because that is like we talk about the redneck sort of uniform at the race, and if you got jorts, and
the jacket probably would have covered it up though, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
The fanny pack was prominent.
Yes,
purple.
Yeah,
which
good
was
point.
Excellent.
Good point. Yep, cell phone holster. And like some sort of shirt that's tucked in with no belt into the jorts.
Called the
you killed
socks
it.
You wore like poop stoppers or something like.
Poop socks.
Yeah, poop socks.
Poop socks.
Yeah, well, that was an old story that came out, and someone ended up at the racetrack giving me socks with like poop emojis on them that I wear sometimes.
That's funny. We got a question in regards to that?
Yeah. Let's get to the questions from the PTM posse. They've asked a few things. If you'll forgive or just roll with the name, Geriatric Bruton Smith at Geriatric O Bruto. He asked a 2-part question. Number one was kind of this is a serious question. How's your role at WTR? Is it change or is it any different with the departure of your brother Ricky there?
I don't. I mean, it's definitely changed a little bit. Just the way the whole team's working. Obviously, Ricky was there for 4 years. We were teammates, so obviously we got into a very, easy routine of how everything worked. And now with Ranger coming in, it's a guy with a new mentality and a new work ethic. So I think for me, I've definitely taken on, more of a role, working with the engineer a bit more because I've been with him for so many years and kind of telling Ranger, how we do things at Wayne Taylor Racing, but at the same time, Ranger can bring us a whole new side of how to look at a race weekend and how to approach it and approach a practice session of, do a couple laps, work on a setup change, and he can bring a different, point of view with that. So I think it's been an interesting year so far. He's obviously extremely quick and talented. He got the pole for us at the Rolex. But I think, we're definitely still gelling a little bit. Our driving styles aren't too far off, so that makes things easy for setup changes. But I think it's been a fun year so far, and I think it's just a matter of time until we get our first win together.
And so the off the wall question, I'll rephrase it a little bit. When will Rodney make his next appearance outside of your backyard? Climbing the palm trees for your neighbors. Is there a possibility at Darlington on a throwback weekend?
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I might be at. I was very close to going to the Formula E race in New York, but I'm actually pretty sure. I'd say 90% sure I'll be at the Charlotte Road Course race.
Oh, the Roval! Look out!
Yeah.
That's
September.
fantastic.
Well, I won't be there. Rodney will be there.
Right,
Rodney.
Right.
Yeah.
He'll be
understood.
There's a lot of palm trees in that's North Carolina, but you gotta you gotta pass through South Carolina. If you had a picture of you climbing a palm tree, now that would just fill the story right out.
That's way past his days, though. He's pretty traumatized.
Oh, good point. Accident. Good point. No, so you need
to be like 2 feet off the ground for it to work.
True.
You just need
good
well, no, now he's an underwear model, so I'm not saying post a picture of yourself in your underwear, but maybe Rodney would. That's funny.
Take that Jeff Gordon jacket, cut it off, cut it off at the shoulder line,
at the sleeves,
and at the midriff.
That'll get half the cigarette smell out of it.
That's true.
That is Calvin
true.
Klein whitey tighties. And climb up a palm
love
tree.
it. I love it.
All right, we're getting off the rails here.
Roger Diamond at ROJODI, and he's on the YouTube every week. Thanks, Roger, for the question. During the Jeff Gordon, Brad Keselowski pit road interview, was DW in the joke or not?
So that's the funny part about the whole thing is that when I went into the weekend, I had told a handful of people that I was going. Obviously, I know Matt Yoakum from Fox. I know Jeff, obviously, and a few people. And I had told them like if they had any ideas, and we had all these ideas about what to do. We were gonna do stuff during the weekend as Rodney and go film some stuff. And none of it happened, and I was okay with it. I was already having fun, and then on like race day, I had to do an interview with someone from Fox as Jordan, but he told me, if you're around at the start, just come to the grid at like whatever time, like 1:30. I can't remember what time the race was. He's like, just come to the grid at like 1:35 and stand here, and I'll come find you, but just don't let anyone see you. I'm like, okay. So I get there at like 1:30. I get kicked out of pit lane because I was wearing my jorts. And I call the guy. I'm like, hey, I'm here. They won't let me in. Security blocked me. He's like, all right, I'll come grab you. So he grabs me. He's like, all right, well, the pre-race is being done on pit lane because I guess Jeff and DW and them always do it up top. And he said this time they're doing it on pit lane. So if you want to go in there, just go ahead and you can go crash it. And I'm like,
yes.
Like in 5 minutes, I'm doing that. He's like, yeah, if you want to. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? And he's like, I don't know. You'll think of something. Yeah. So
act like a drunk NASCAR Jeff Gordon fan wearing cutoff jorts.
Take your Velcro shoe off and ask for it to get signed.
So we're walking around. He's like, well, just don't let anyone see you. Don't let DW see you. They told Jeff. That's the only person they told. They told Jeff that Jordan may do something, so be ready for it. And so we're coming around the back, and there's like 8 police officers around the back of them because they don't want this situation to happen.
They don't want this to
happen. So they like the guy goes up, taps each police officer on the shoulder. He's like, hey, this guy's gonna go running in there. Just don't worry about it. And the funny part, so they're like, all right, go. And then I go running in, and one of the cops actually grabs me on my shoulder, like as I'm going by the camera. And then a Fox lady hits his arm, like takes him off of it. And I go in, and I had no idea what to do, so I just took my shoe off from the sign. And then DW and Keselowski, I'm pretty sure Keselowski has no idea who I am, so he didn't know. And DW definitely didn't know. And he was calling security, trying to go to commercial. And as soon as I got out of there, like we just kind of we left. And then I was walking out of the track, and this other guy comes. He's like, hey, Jordan, I can't remember his name. He was a Fox producer. And he's like, I'm the guy, or I was extremely close to going to commercial because no one told us, even in the back, that you were doing that.
Oh my God.
So not many people knew it was going to happen, but thankfully it all worked out.
Imagine being DW in this situation. Like, all of the security people are briefed. They're not about to help you, right? You're on your own, DW. And we're going to go to commercial. No, we ain't.
Yeah.
Well, the look on Daryl's face.
I saw like the thing that I was upset about was like once it went out, obviously NASCAR people probably don't know who I am as Jordan Taylor, and definitely not Rodney Sandstorm. And a lot of people were just giving them a lot of grief because obviously once NASCAR posted it, they posted it as like, oh, this is Jordan Taylor as Rodney Sandstorm. So then people knew, but everyone started going off on like Waltrip and Keselowski for giving me a hard time. But in their defense, like this was a random super fan running in with his shoe in his hand to get Jeff Gordon to sign it on live TV on Fox. Like it was a big deal. So for me, like I was okay with them trying to go to commercial because I would have been freaking if I was in their position.
I don't even know how to describe how funny this is now that we actually have the first hand of it.
I'm gonna cry.
I remember seeing Daryl's face, like watching the act, and it's like he's like,
"You're on your own, Dale." or
Yeah.
Daryl, figure this out.
And Jeff just kind of he just went with the flow. Like you
Yeah.
handed him your shoe, and he's like, "Yep, here you go. Sign it up." And hand it back.
I'm glad Jeff was in on it. They at least warned him that something could happen, because I would have hated it for me running. He's like, "Jordan, what are you doing?" or something like that.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know, man. I'm just doing the thing.
They told me to do it.
Yeah.
They told me to do it. I love it. Like a dare. Oh, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, it was fun though, and then obviously that got a lot of attention because it was like right on the pre-race, and then the lady with the on the big screen came over for an interview, as the cars were rolling off the grid. So once I left the pit lane, it seemed like everyone in the track knew who I was at that point, because I was all over TV after that. So it was it was a lot of fun.
Hold on. Now, did you get interviewed by Caitlin Vincey or Shannon Spake?
No, her name was Monica Palumbo.
Oh, yeah, Monica Palumbo. Yeah, former Miss
She was
Cup.
the Talladega PA person.
Oh, cool. I didn't realize that's what she's doing now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's awesome. So one more question from the PTM Posse for you. William Soki at William Soquet. He says, what was it like to race Jeff Gordon or race with Jeff Gordon? Did he give the tips, or were you giving him the tips? How was that interaction in between sessions?
No, that was probably the coolest experience. I mean, obviously he's Jeff Gordon, so for me, he was coming in and it was intimidating. Obviously, we all looked up to him from what he's done in his career, so we didn't really know what to expect. He's known my dad for years, probably 15, 20 years now, and they get along really well as friends. But, this was Jeff coming in as a race car driver, so it was a bit different. And our first test together was at Charlotte at the road course, actually. And he comes in, I'm obviously nervous to meet him. And we had to actually go on the track together. I was going to drive him around. I'd never driven there. I was going to drive a lap, and we had to section off part of the track with cones, probably like 100 cones, like big cones, probably 20-pound cones. And
wow,
usually a track official would do that, and they set them up there, and they were all in the wrong position for our braking, because we were braking into that hard left off the oval. And he's like, this looks off. It needs to be straight this way and angled in. He's like, all right, well, let's just change it. So I spent an hour with Jeff Gordon, both of us just carrying hundreds of pounds of cones around together and lining up the straightaway at Charlotte. And I'm just thinking this is Jeff Gordon walking around, redesigning a little racetrack with me on the track, and his hands are a mess. There was a dead bird on the track that he kicked out of the way. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is Jeff Gordon? And so then we start driving rental car laps, and we stop, and then he's just asking hundreds of questions about sports car racing and what to expect, and what we do in different situations. So for me, it was a great lesson on a guy who's won everything, and he's still humble. He's still wanting to learn. And, as soon as I'll never forget the first time he went out in the car, we started doing literally just the infield, not even the roval. And it was this tiny little, stupid little track. It was almost like a go-kart track for our car. And he goes out there, and you could, with the reflection off the oval, you could hear the car, and then you could hear the tires squealing on the car from him sliding it around on his third lap. And that instantly told me of just his natural feel and ability in a race car to be comfortable almost instantly in something that's black and white from what he's driven in the past. So it was super impressive to see. And by the time we got to Daytona, he was still asking questions, and he's obviously never had to race in the rain before, and it rained during the race and in practice. And usually in practice, guys don't want to go out in the rain, which is too risky. And he was the first one to raise his hand to say, I need to go drive and learn how to do it, just in case it rains in the race. And, it did rain in the race, and he had to drive in the rain. And, for a guy who's never raced in the rain, he was racing with some of the top, sports car drivers in the world and keeping up with them and battling with them. So a lot of people, watch that race, and, oftentimes, a fourth driver doesn't contribute to a win at a 24-hour, but, Jeff definitely did his part and, was a huge part of our team and a huge asset to winning that race.
Yeah, so to capitalize on what you just said, I'll say my respect for Jeff Gordon really showed up right before Daytona repaved the big surface, and they showed an in-car. Actually, it really was just a focused view of Jeff from through his windshield coming down the front stretch into the tri-oval, where the car never changed lanes, but his hands jerked to the right 3 or 4 times. And you're like,
yeah,
wow, this guy really has control of what that car is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we'll get scalped if we don't ask you this before we let you go. Jordan, have you ever considered jumping in the seat of a stock car?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to do a road course. Either Sonoma or Watkins Glen, even Road America or Ohio or Canada, and trucks or Xfinity. So, I've talked to some teams in the past. Nothing's ever really lined up. Sometimes schedules clash, but, road courses are definitely obviously something I'm used to and, something I'd love to try. I love that style of racing, a big, heavy car with high horsepower and not much downforce. I like that style of racing. So, yeah, I'd definitely love to try it.
So when are you up next at Road Atlanta? Because we may have to go up there and visit you.
Yeah, that'll be cool. We have that's our finale is Petite Le Mans in October. It's a 10-hour race.
Look out, Sherwin.
Okay.
That could be a thing.
That is a thing.
Yeah. We happen to be right here.
That's now a thing.
As it turns
All
out.
right. I'll be there.
Jordan, this has been a blast. I've learned. We always say on this show, I want you to learn something, I want you to laugh, and I've done both of those 10 times over tonight. Thank you for being on. Tell everybody where they can find you and what's coming up next.
Yeah, we're at Watkins Glen next week, and then up in Mossport the week after. My social media is at Jordan10Taylor, and then also Rodney Sandstorm is on Instagram now.
Excellent.
That's fantastic. Jordan, again, thank you so much for being on. This is so much fun.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Well,
me too.
We'll be in touch, especially maybe come the October timeframe.
Yeah, sounds good. Hopefully we'll see you there.
All right, man. You take care and good luck coming up.
Thanks, guys.
All right, see you later.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Yeah.
Dude, that was a ton of fun.
That was way more incredible than I ever could have imagined it being.
It hit on both sides that we've talked about before, and that I just said. We want to learn something, and we want to have fun, and we want to laugh, and he has both sides of that.
And add the third piece that I always say is you want to think a little bit, and that he made you think a little bit too.
Get the heady stuff going.
Definitely laughed a lot.
Speaking of thinking, before we roll on to our next guest, I did want to address the question that Andrew Cansian via Chris Snyder said, and at KHANTZIAN, and obviously Chris Knight at Snyder01. And he says, if we can't pack the stands for short track racing now in NASCAR, how are we expected to add more short tracks to the schedule? You're wearing the more short track shirt. That's that's the official flag now. I've seen multiple people wearing this shirt now.
My mic out of the way. Can y'all see my shirt?
Yeah.
This is the shirt that Brent Dewar said, who is the vice president of NASCAR, by the way, said I should wear this shirt more often because he also loves short tracks. How do we get people? How do we get more short tracks on the schedule if people that have short track racing don't go? And this is what I said is, look, if you don't go to an Xfinity race and trucks race weekend, NASCAR doesn't think you're going to go to a Cup race. That's what they tried out at Rockingham.
Yeah.
They tried a truck race. The racing was awesome, and nobody went. And so after 3 years, they shut it down.
Yeah.
Look, if you want a race at your place, you have to show up. Packed stands, a slammed grandstand is what's going to get a Cup race at Iowa.
So here's the thing for me. that matters for TV. TV and blah blah blah. TV is so much more money than people in the stands. But the thing that people in the stands do is they bring the money for the track too. And we heard that from Ed Clark at AMS.
Packed stands.
He was saying, yeah, unfortunately, we didn't have anybody in the stands because all the rain and stuff that was forecast, but we still got the race in and all that. Ed was telling that to us right after the race ended. I think that just sort of off the cuff, maybe I shouldn't say that. So I don't know.
No, you definitely should.
In confidentiality, media, blah blah blah. No, but it's a dichotomy there of what happens on track. Here's my opinion. What happens on track will bring the race fans there. And we need to have more of that on track. And I think if we have more short tracks, we will have more on track stuff going on, and that will bring the people. If they're so interdispersed right now, I think NASCAR has a problem right now where people aren't going to show up anyway. But if we start putting on a product that is way more engaging than what we see week in, week out, then people will start showing up. So I that's where I'm at with it. Let's do more short tracks first, and then see if people show up. Let's not make our decision based on whether people are showing up right now.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
So I responded to somebody on Twitter today. Forgive me for not remembering your handle in the moment, but I think the whole evolution of NASCAR, we just need to stop for a minute, appreciate what we've got, promote what we've got to the best of our ability. Radical change is hit or miss at best. Like, we can't fill the stands at Martinsville, and I think everybody that's a stock car fan would say Martinsville is pretty much the best product that we've got. But, however, we are filling the stands at Sonoma and Watkins Glen. So what can we learn from that? I mean, in my mind, why don't we introduce another road course? Why don't we take Cup to Elkhart Lake? I'm sorry, Iowa. You're not going to get a Cup race for a couple of different reasons, and I'll explain them to you. One, you don't go to them. And two, NASCAR.com, NASCAR, the entity, owns the racetrack, which means you're never getting a race because they're not going to pull a race from ISC because they also own that company or have an interest in it. And they don't own SMI, who is the other track owner. And so you're not going to pull a race. So Iowa, you can forget about a Cup race in the short run, and I would say that means in the next 10 years. So, but Elkhart Lake, that's a different story. That's a good place to put Cup.
Yeah. So, quick shout out to Laura Henshaw, who just called us out for having PETM 151, June 14th, 2018, written on the main thing. I forgot to change that one. So, I've changed it, hot swap.
Oh, we did a double episode again?
Oh, no. Yeah, exactly. So, thank you, Laura, for the adjustment right there. And with that, y'all, we'll bring on our next guest, which we, pre-recorded, but we've got it all recorded up and ready for you. So,
are you gonna like it?
This is awesome. This was so much fun. Y'all enjoy this, and we'll come back to you in a second. Marketing for Sonoma Raceway. It's Diana Brennan. Diana, how's it going?
Very well, thanks. How are you guys tonight?
We're doing awesome. We are so excited to have you on and to talk about Sonoma. Sherwin?
So Sonoma has fast become probably the race that I look the most forward to, other than Daytona because we get that long layoff.
Right.
But like when it comes to road course racing, Sonoma is my Martinsville, if you will.
Yeah. For so many people. Let's jump right into that. So I had this question a bit down below, but I feel like, Diana, there's been this huge increase in excitement for road course racing, and like Sherwin said, especially Sonoma for the NASCAR fans. Is that something that y'all have seen as well? And has there what's the feedback been like for that?
You bet. I mean, I've been at the track a long time. I started here in 1999, and in my first years here, this was not a place a lot of drivers looked forward to. You know, it was a place where maybe a handful of drivers were going to do well and were most likely to win. And, you know, a lot of the drivers didn't like it. As I recall, Jimmy Spencer once suggested it could be used as a nuclear testing facility for all he was concerned. But over the years, you know, as drivers have come from different backgrounds, as the teams have gotten better, as, you know, the cars have gotten better, the racing has gotten better. It's something the drivers look forward to now as a challenge, as a fun race, as a chance for them to win. You're not seeing the road course ringers anymore. I mean, you're seeing these guys that are full-time drivers and come out here and do really well. I mean, even, you know, Dale Jr., who for a long time always said he didn't like road courses, you know, he came around and did really well and then started to realize how fun they could be. So it has definitely changed. It's fun to be different. It's wonderful to be a place that drivers and the series likes to come to and that the fans like to watch.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Junior because on the last time Steve Letarte was on a podcast that I listened to, I think it might have been with Kelly Crandall, he mentioned that what he thought was one of his greatest accomplishments as crew chief with Junior was that top 5 that they got at Sonoma.
Oh, wow.
And how hard they celebrated getting that top 5. Like they celebrated it like a win because of, as you mentioned, Junior just really didn't take the road course and all that well. But
no, and it's funny. I think that year was the first year they hadn't tested. I remember him telling the story. You know, it was the first year they hadn't tested, and they hadn't really, you know, done anything specific for it. And all of a sudden, they came out and he finished better than he ever had. So it's fun to see guys break through here and feel like they're getting the track and understanding it. I mean, we've had, you know, 11 different winners over the last 13 years, so it's definitely not a place where any one driver has dominated, you know, since the days of Jeff Borden. So it's fun. It's neat to be different, and it's nice to be a place people look forward to.
I'm glad you mentioned that about all the different winners, and I did a little research myself because we had some people come at us and say maybe some disparaging thing about road course racing or something or other.
Sure.
And I went back and did the research, and it's like, you realize over the past 13 years, like, the lowest total win number for a winner at Sonoma was Truex with and he's got 12 or 13 wins. So it's like, you win NASCAR races if you win at Sonoma.
That's a good point. And, you know, I wasn't going to bring up, you know, nuclear testing facility, but I remember when me and Sherwin first kind of came on the scene and started following NASCAR and started becoming fans. And we were laughing because we would go to these road course races, and there were the ringers and all these people you wouldn't see. And I don't know if the racing was any different, but maybe we have, you know, gotten sophisticated. We graduated to wine country. But
sure.
I remember, Sherwin, me and you used to say, you know, road course racing is all about who can slow down better, not who can go faster better. You remember that?
I do remember saying that. But now we understand why slowing down better is useful at a race.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We actually did a luncheon today, a media luncheon with Martin Truex Jr., and he said that Sonoma is like the short track of road courses, and Watkins Glen is like the speedway, the super speedway of road courses. You know, they're very different tracks. And now this year you'll have the Roval in Charlotte as well, which will be a whole different beast. But it's pretty fun. It's, you know, definitely different. And, you know, these drivers are really starting to get the hang of it, and the racing is exciting. And then you added on, you know, the last few years we've had some really just incredible moments. I mean, Kyle Busch won here after breaking his leg and went on to win the championship. And Tony Stewart getting his, you know, last win of his career here, you know, when he took out, you know, kind of put Denny Hamlin in the wall, and, you know, just some really memorable, incredible moments that have happened here. And it's pretty special, I think, if these guys feel like it's a real accomplishment when they can, you know, beat this track and everybody else on it.
Well, for sure. And for us, because we're fans first.
Yep.
You know, we say, you know, unabashedly, we're Casey Kane fans. So the race that he won, where he had to beat Tony Stewart on 4 straight restarts.
Yeah,
that was a good one. Then he got to toast the wine with Richard Petty in Victory Lane. That
absolutely,
was
that was a very
goosebumps
peaking moment for us as fans because we realized how versatile the guy that we root for really is.
Yeah.
And that's the guy that came from a dirt track background too, right? So he really, you know, is another example of these guys that have come up with these different backgrounds. You know, and brought it to the road course and have shown success on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dirt and from the Northwest.
Versatility is
absolutely.
the word there.
Represent Enumclaw, right?
That's right.
Enumclaw, Washington.
Right on.
Yeah.
So I know we want to thank you for being on because I know that you've got to be super busy right now with everything going on and on the track, off the track, everything else. What are you doing right now? What's your day-to-day leading up to racing at Sonoma, and what kind of preparations are going on?
You know, it's a lot of, I would say it's a lot of putting out fires. You know, it's a lot of minutia and detail work that we do, but also working with all the media folks to make sure that they're getting what they need to cover the race this weekend, providing them with stories and interviews and good content. The luncheon we did today, you know, is an example of that with Martin Truex Jr. here in San Francisco, and gives media some content going into the weekend. I also oversee the marketing side, which is a lot of our track entertainment, so it's putting together, you know, Q&As and at-track events, entertainment, the fun stuff that the fans get to do, the air show and all the aerial elements, the fun pre-race show, all gets done by folks who work with me. So it's a lot of work and sweat and tears and blood that goes into these race weekends for the people who work them, but it's also what we work all year for, and it's a lot of fun, and we're hosting our biggest party of the year, and can't wait for everybody to get here and see what we've, you know, put together for them. So while I was off property today, I mean, the whole place came to life and filled up with all the haulers from the Cup Series and the West Series. All the campers moved in today, so, you know, looking out my window now, it definitely looks like we're ready to host a race tomorrow.
That's fantastic. How much fun. I mean, Sherwin, that's got to be like fun on top of stress, on top of fun, on top of stress. It all culminates.
It is all of those things. It is highs on top of head, you know, foreheads to, you know, palm to the forehead, and then on top of, you know, fun, exciting things to do. So there's not a lot of dull moments, and it's, you know, it's all working towards that green flag falling on Sunday.
So we know that the racing and the track are unique in the series. What other things, you know, obviously being wine country and all that, it feels like it's a different vibe. Can you talk about the vibe and the uniqueness of the off-track experience that you have there at Sonoma?
Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different, you know, thing than going to an oval or really any other track I've been to. Obviously, you know, we're built into the hillsides here in the Sonoma Valley, so we're surrounded by hills. That also means there's a lot more dirt. There's a lot more elevation changes. There's a lot of walking. But it also means that there are some incredible vantage points to watch the race from. All of our seating areas are, except for our main grandstand, are terraced into the hillside. So you've kind of got these sweeping views of almost the whole course, and you're elevated up above it, so you can really see a lot of the action from your seats. You're able to walk around and check out different vantage points from different turns, depending on what you like. You know, every one of our fans has a different opinion on what's the best seat in the house, depending on what they like to see and what they like to have access to during the weekend. But each of our turns has kind of a different vibe. We've, you know, recently over the last few years built out some really beautiful redwood decks,
cool.
local Humboldt redwood, that are shaded with redwood arbors and are a really neat environment to watch the race. And just trying to create a place where fans like to come and hang out and watch a race and have some fun on a Sunday afternoon.
Sure, and I think standing on a redwood deck with a wine in hand watching a NASCAR race, that sounds pretty much like the most unique experience you can have, huh?
Yeah,
drinking a Sonoma County craft brew and eating some locally made food. It's not the worst way to go.
That's right. Pinky out with some Sammy Kershaw on the radio.
Yeah,
that's
right. So do y'all actually sell wine at the track? I'm curious.
We do. We sell wine here. We sell locally brewed beer and craft beers from the area, as well as your typical beers as well. But there's wine. We've got Tito's vodka. We've got Mike's Hard Lemonade. We've got some really cool beverage partners that bring some unique, different alcoholic beverages, if that is your choice, to the track.
Well,
sure.
that's our choice.
Actually,
right?
So
right?
I don't think they're from Northern California, but I usually try to pair what we're drinking during the show up with where the race is either going or where it's come from. I actually have a Golden Road beer for us this evening.
Nice.
Which is, I can't remember where in California it's from, but it is a California craft beer.
Yeah, that's cool. So what is here's the irreverent question for you. What's and maybe you can plug a wine sponsor here or something. What's the best wine pairing for a race at Sonoma while you're there?
What tastes the best?
Yeah,
like
with gas and rubber.
Idling.
It's gonna be hot, so my choice would probably be a nice cold, white or a rosé. Would probably be, my choice for a long day out in the sun. Maybe a nice, buttery Chardonnay or something like that. But everybody's different. Some people still like to roll with a red wine. I mean, we don't discriminate. We accept wine of all colors here. Depending on what suits your taste.
Is there any company that has a partnership with the track in any way where they take fans that are camping there into Napa Valley and then bring them back so they get back to the races.
Sherwin's looking for,
well,
activities.
as my boss says, Napa is where you buy your auto parts. Sonoma is where you get your wine. So we actually, but we do. We have a bus service that takes campers from the track into downtown Sonoma and makes a stop at a winery, Beyonce Winery, with a beautiful view of the wine country, and then into the Sonoma Plaza, which is a downtown area with lots of shops and food and cheese and wine and all kinds of good stuff, and then brings them back to the track.
So we're doing that.
So yeah, that's on the list.
Definitely doing that.
That's super cool. That's part, Sherwin, of the uniqueness that I'm trying to get at here is at what other track, hey, we're going to hop in this holler. What was the thing we did in Bristol last year? Oh, we went to an 80s party.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they picked us up and took us to an 80s party. Sonoma's going to pick us up and take us to a winery.
Get some cheese and some crackers.
Yeah, I think there's a winner there.
Yeah, well, from my perspective
you can
now.
still wear your acid wash jeans if you want, and then combine the two. It's totally up to you.
Right on. We'll do that. You already mentioned it about everybody having their favorite places to watch a race from. What are you doing while the race is going on, and as well, what's your favorite place to watch a race from?
While the race is going on, I usually see very little of it, I'm afraid. I'm usually running around making sure everything's set for whatever is coming next. So I'm usually up in our media center, which is kind of located not far from the start-finish line of the track. So I've got a pretty good view, although ironically I end up watching a lot of it on a television screen. My favorite view is usually up above turn 2 of our road course. It's a really neat view of the cars coming up the hill and coming down the backside of the track. That's often where I'll try to catch a couple laps if I can. But any of the hills and the turns, above the turns are really cool because that's where you're going to get the action on the track and get to see a lot of what's going on from high up.
Yeah, Landon Castle's little schematic was pretty funny about turn 2.
That is one of the best
Can't
things
see
I've ever
anything,
seen.
but turn 2, cresting
I think that's how all the drivers feel, but don't say.
Cresting the hill, that's where they get the big air. When you see those really awesome shots of the right side just like 3 feet off the ground.
Right. And I imagine, so if it's like any other racetrack, when you see it on TV, you see one perspective, but when you're there, is that hill way bigger than it looks on TV?
The elevation change from the lowest point of our track, which is down near turn 10, to the highest point of our track, which is up by like turn 3, 4, is I think over 160 feet.
Oh my gosh!
Wow, so TV doesn't do that any justice.
It's about
at all.
14 stories, so it's a big elevation change, and that's the one thing that a lot of folks say, and the drivers too say you really can't appreciate on television is that the elevation change as well as kind of the cambers and the changes in the turns and how much they, how physical it is for the drivers to be out there and going left and right and left foot braking and doing all the stuff that they're not doing every single week.
I'm sitting here doing calculations. Like if you take the office building where I work and you put my house on top of it, you're about halfway to 160 feet. I mean, good grief.
It's huge.
It's pretty impressive, and honestly, even when you're sitting here, at the track, it's hard to really appreciate it. But when you're in a race car and you're, if you get a chance to do a hot lap around the track or you hear the drivers talk about it, and a lot of the turns here are blind, so they'll be up on top and they can't see where they're going next. They have to kind of count on their spots and their visual cues to make sure they know where they are on the track. It's it's a completely different animal from what they're doing week to week.
So, Sherwin, you've got some legacy near the track, and as does one of the most famous drivers in all of motorsports, not just NASCAR. But talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, and it's only been in the last 5 years or so that Jeff Gordon has claimed Vallejo as his hometown.
It was usually only when he was west of the Mississippi.
Right, because he moved to Indiana as a teenager to pursue kart racing and then ultimately sprint cars and then ultimately NASCAR. But his formative years, I would say, he grew up in Vallejo, for those who don't know how to say it, which is the same town my dad grew up in, which is funny because when I started looking at, geographical proximity to Sonoma, I was like, Dad, you grew up 13 miles away from this racetrack. You never went and you never even cared about racing. Like as soon as Jeff switched over from Pittsburgh, Indiana to Vallejo, California, my dad and realizing how much passion I have for this sport and just being a dad who's dialed in, he started paying attention to what Jeff Gordon was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that when we would have a phone call, he could say, well, I saw Jeff Gordon had a good run, you know, or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
like, and stuff like that. So, but one thing he did say is, though, I don't know why they run that race in June when the grass is all brown, because in April it's like perfectly green.
That's a good point. How's the grass looking, Diana?
It's pretty brown. We call it gold. It's very gold right now.
Gold,
but
I like
yeah, it's not green. It's not like those other road courses. Not like Watkins Glen, where it's beautiful and green in all year round.
What's around the track? Is it a while to get into town, or is there a lot of restaurants and hotels and stuff?
No, we're probably about 15 miles away from really town. We're probably 15 miles from downtown Sonoma, about 15 minutes or so from a town called Novato. So and as the crow flies, probably about 15 miles from Vallejo. So we're kind of in the middle. We're close to everything, but nothing's right here. So it's not like a lot of the other tracks where they're sort of in town. We're kind of out, away from, from a few things. But, when we're only 35 minutes without traffic from, the Golden Gate Bridge, about an hour from Sacramento. So we're kind of centrally located for everybody. Unfortunately, we're surrounded by a lot of two-lane roads, so it can be a little tricky getting in and out. But folks, once they get here, and seem to have a good time, and we've got a ton of campers who just come in and make the whole weekend out of it.
I have vacationed in California multiple times and did not realize the proximity of San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge area to Sonoma. It's
just on the north side of the bay.
Yeah, and I've been up there in the redwood forest, just north side.
Oh
yeah. So that's so I was almost there.
We can make a whole trip out of this thing,
right?
And the irony here
that's
is
a whole vacation.
Yeah, the irony here is, I mean, not only has Atlanta Motor Speedway been up until recently was pretty isolated itself, but I grew up 7 miles from Atlanta Motor Speedway, and the only reason why I knew it was there is because we had our Christmas cotillion ball there.
Oh yeah,
in the ballroom at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and it was at night in December, so I didn't see anything.
Yeah,
and I remember being out in the driveway when there was only a few years that the IndyCar race happened at Atlanta, and just hearing this war, and it was like the perfect ceiling of clouds and everything, and you could hear this noise that would be reoccurring.
Yeah,
it would disappear for a few seconds. And I'm like, Dad, what is that noise? And he goes, I'm pretty sure that's the racetrack.
So my takeaway from that is that your dad has lived a combined 20 miles from two racetracks on opposite coasts.
On the opposite sides of the planet, or the country anyway, and hasn't been to either one of them.
Well, he's
actually, he picked me up one time to play golf when you guys went to a bush race.
Okay,
like 06. You
that?
remember that?
Yeah, I do. Because you came down and hung out with them. That's so funny. Diana, do me a favor. Plug your favorite place to eat near the track, either when you're going out to lunch while you're at the track or something in town. Your favorite place to go to.
Oh gosh, well there's two. Can I do two?
Yes.
I break the rule. So I'd say if folks are in Marin County, my favorite place is a Puerto Rican restaurant called Soul Food. It is incredible, home cooked, real simple, delicious food that is worth the trip. Let's see, Sonoma, you really can't go too wrong on the Sonoma Plaza. There's a lot of beautiful places. I really enjoy a little spot called Red Grape, which makes really good salads and thin crust pizza and a good glass of wine.
Oh, man. Everything with the good glass of wine part in the end is...
Yep. It definitely eases everything. That's
totally
for sure.
Totally in. Sherwin, I think...
So where should we stay when we finally cross this off our bucket list?
It just depends on the experience you want. I recommend folks either stay in Marin County. I mean, there's Sonoma County. There's a lot of different places to stay. Marin County is, pretty easy to get in and out. But, if you're coming and you're making this a bucket list, you're probably going to want to stay somewhere in Sonoma County so you can get a little, wine tasting in and enjoy the area while you're here.
Or camp out.
What if we want to camp at the track?
Or camp out at the track. Or camp out at the track. Enjoy the fun of our folks. They have a blast. We have a campground called 50 Acres, and their motto is what happens in 50 acres stays in 50 acres. So
That's where we're camping.
Questions.
Yep.
But they have a good time out there and definitely make the most of it.
And that, how far from that campground is the little bus that takes us into wine country?
That bus leaves from that campground.
Oh, yes! Look out.
Yeah.
Winter chicken dinner.
It's on. With that, Sherwin, I think what we ought to do is make some picks with Diana here. And Diana, if you'll bear with us for a moment, we have to play our little song here.
Yeah.
There it is. I shouldn't say
we did
song.
a sound capture of when Junior gave the call to fire at Daytona.
Yeah.
Oh, that was pretty solid.
Yeah, it was pretty good effort.
So, with that, let's let our guest go first. On the record, showing favorites from from somebody who's
From
part
the front
of the
office.
track. Yeah, right. No, nothing like that. But do you have a pick, Diana, for this weekend in the Cup Series?
Oh, man. I think I'm going to go with... I think I got to go with Harvick.
There you go.
It's a good pick.
I think he found his groove here last year, and I think he's going to keep it going.
That was going to be my pick if nobody else went there. But
Solid.
because it's one of those you have to. Just like this last weekend in Michigan, or 2 weekends ago in Michigan, I'm like, well, I have to choose Truex if nobody else is going to. I mean,
Right.
What's
And
going
he ended
on?
up having such a weird deal.
Yeah.
didn't have a
It
good day at
didn't
all.
happen. Sherwin, who you got?
Because I think Sonoma is such a technical racetrack, I believe that it's Brad's turn.
Dadgummit, that was my number 2, dude.
Sonoma.
Well, because of what we talked about before and what Diana brought up, 11 different drivers out of the last 14 races. So that, we're looking for a
championship
the
caliber
diversity
driver that
yeah.
can win. That
yeah,
hasn't
exactly,
won there before.
exactly.
Yep.
Shoot.
So good luck from the rest of the pool.
I know you're going to kill me. You're going to hate me because I think this person qualifies in all of the things that we just talked about and kind of needs a win. Denny Hamlin. I hate to say it, but I don't think that's a bad pick.
Do you know what his average finishes on the last 5 short track races? Or four?
Short track or road course? No.
2.8.
Right. So
So I'd say you made a good pick.
Years.
yeah, regardless of fandom. What was that, Diana?
He's been right there the last couple of years. He's definitely due.
Yeah, so that's another, I would say, variety, diversity pick in terms of
been the maid of honor a couple of different
yeah.
times and not got the ring. So.
Right. So with that, Diana, we want to thank you so much for being on and hanging out with us for a little bit. This is
you bet, you guys. Thanks for your passion for the sport and for getting us on, and hopefully you're cheering us on Sunday. And we'll save a spot for you out in 50 acres whenever you're ready.
We'll be in contact sooner than you probably imagined.
Yeah, I will definitely be
it.
in touch with you when you make that decision.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. Close us out. Tell everybody where they can find you and the racetrack and everything on Twitter and all the places.
All the socials. Yeah, you bet. You can find us online at SonomaRaceway.com. We're on all the social channels, and I've got an awesome social guy who's out there busting his butt all weekend, putting out really great content on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we're at Race Sonoma on all those channels. So make sure you follow us and see all the great behind-the-scenes stuff, and hopefully if you're not here, you'll tune in on FS1 on Sunday.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you again, Diana. And good luck to Kevin Harvick, I guess, this weekend with your pick.
Love it. All right, you guys. Have a great day. Thanks so much for the time.
All right. Talk to you later.
Very
Thanks.
much.
Well, dude. What a show.
Well, dude.
Well, dude.
What do you say about that?
I don't know what to
two
say.
Absolutely fantastic guests.
Oh, man. I don't even know how to close
completely
this out.
different
Hey,
perspectives.
cheers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is not to us.
Hashtag 100%.
This is yes, please drink. This is for the PTM posse. That was so much fun. Jordan Taylor, a.k.a. Rodney Sandstorm. Dude, I almost lost a spleen laughing at some of that stuff. And Diane, that was so cool talking to her and about what's going on in Sonoma. I love it.
She owned the whole thing. She was an absolute professional. She knew it was like there was no pausing with her. She knew exactly what she wanted to say. We did not prep her for that interview. That wasn't really an interview. We were just talking with someone who's
fun.
not a friend as though they are a friend.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's not going to be very long before we are shaking hands and meeting her in person.
Dude.
I'm telling you,
I'm taking my hat off.
Dude, we're both platinum Sky Miles with companion tickets.
There's that. Hey,
the plane flight is virtually free.
Right.
It ends up being like $100 a piece.
Yeah.
So it's something we need to consider.
I'm choking on this.
I mean, Ed Mott's talking about peach moonshine. I'd love some of that.
Tell you what,
I'd love to do a shot right now. That was awesome. Jordan
was so much fun.
was extremely easy to guide.
Yeah,
as
so much
as
fun.
a guest, we didn't have to guide him.
No,
he just
no.
did his.
Dude, he just
did Jordan.
does his thing.
And
Diane
did a little bit of Rodney Sandstorm, which was awesome. The explanation for what happened when he jumped into the Fox picture.
Holy
and,
crap!
Nobody freaking.
I'm
knew.
gonna have to listen to that 12
I
times
said
now.
the F word there. By
Yeah,
the way.
yeah.
Like,
Couple shout outs for y'all, by the way, before we close this thing down. Number one, we'll do a serious and we'll do a fun. Seriously, Charlie Crawl. He just
way to go, Charlie!
Charlie Crawl, front office job with ARCA. This has been kind of like his. I mean, this has been his glide path, dude. And he landed this thing. He stuck the landing here with that. If you don't know who Charlie Crawl is, at Charles Crawl, be sure to go follow and hang out. And
he's got a fantastic familial history with stock car racing. His uncle owned a car that won a championship with Bobby Allison in the 80s.
It's a holy bejesus.
The Digard car, the 88 Gatorade car, that his uncle owned that car.
Accolades, y'all.
Yeah.
Accolades. If you don't know who he is, just go follow him and stuff. It's so cool. And the other one, dude, Masscast. Ricky and Rick Mast. That was hilarious last week. We must have replayed it 20 times.
I don't even know how to accept it.
I don't know either because it was Rick Mast. It wasn't Ricky Mast. It was Rick. Rick Mast, like Hall of Fame, or I don't know if he is,
Mask
but
Senior.
should be Hall of Fame driver in NASCAR. And he goes, "Hey, I just wanted to talk about them PTM guys for a second." And he didn't even remember our names. And Ricky
Which
was
is
like,
perfect.
"Oh no, it was awesome. It was like that is exactly how it should be." And he goes, "They're sponsoring some driver or something deal." And Ricky had to explain it to him about Patreon and everything. And Rick goes, "We got to figure out how to do all that." And we've been quoting that all week, y'all.
We may have to. We might have to capture that soundbite.
We got to figure out how to do all that.
Put it that's our commercial.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So we don't have a read. So just in the middle of the show, we just put that in as a capture. It's a 20-second bit, or not even. It's probably 15 seconds.
Oh, I'm gonna lose my mind. So before I lose my mind, Sherwin, let's close this thing down. Thank y'all so much for being on. It's been an hour and almost 20 minutes now. Y'all know how we are. We appreciate y'all so much. We hope y'all have some fun. Hey, we hope every time that y'all learn something, you laugh. And what was the other thing, Sherwin? Oh, you think?
Think a little bit.
Think a little bit. Yeah. Think a little bit for yourself. Don't just listen to us. Don't just listen to them. Think for yourself a little bit. Have some fun. So with that, y'all know what to do. Follow us at PTM Podcast. Go to ptmpodcast.com. And as usual, I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor.
And I'm Pregame Engineer at Pregame Engineer at Andrew L. Sherwin on Instagram. We love that y'all are here and y'all are participating. That is the coolest thing that we could ever ask for. And we can't wait to come back to you next week. Guess who's up?
Who's up?
NASCAR Chasm.
Oh, my God. If we weren't already off the rails, we're going off the rails. We'll talk to y'all next week. Thank you so much for joining. See ya. Woo!
Racing cars. We are NASCAR. We are NASCAR. I can't sing. But I can beard up a storm.
Here it is, y'all. Thank you so much
Boom, boom.
for being on. I hope y'all had as much fun as we did. Let's see.
We didn't even talk about the lake. That's how dialed in we were to the podcast.
True. Yeah, we're going to the lake this weekend. It's going to be awesome. We're not just this weekend. We're leaving in the next 12 hours, probably. If I had to guess.
Pretty damn close to it.
Yeah, not far from it. I know what's going to happen is me and Sherwin are both going to be, because we're both working from home or whatever. We're doing our thing, and we're both going to look at each other at 11 a.m. and I'll be like, I can cancel the rest of my crap this, for today.
So we should call Waylon for fun on speaker.
Oh my God, let's not do it on
No, we don't have to record it. It's going to get, because he'll say words with U's.
He'll say words with U's. I love it. Y'all, I've had a blast. I hope everybody else has had a blast. You know, I know it's a little bit selfish, but like it's more like, have I had fun? I've had a blast. So if everybody else did, I hope they did. But
I think our guests both genuinely had fun.
Yes.
Like, I think Jordan probably didn't know what he was getting into.
Jordan texted me immediately afterwards and said, I had a blast, y'all.
I was like, that was fun.
Oh, my God. Like, we shouldn't be getting that kind of text from people. So, anyway.
So, that's how we roll.
And the only reason it all works, the PTM Posse. Y'all are the best. We'll talk to y'all next week. We'll talk to y'all next week. Have a good one. See you later.